happy Wellness Wednesday. I am here with Christina Skyers. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you. Thank you. How are you all today?
It's so good to know that you are closer to me. When I first met you online, I'm going to tell real quick how Christina and I know each other. So we met in a female entrepreneur group, and she was just on the other side of a screen for a long time. And we decided, we're going to meet face to face. So we did a little retreat in the Poconos, and then she moved closer. So I'm so excited. Even though you're on the other side of the screen, you're physically closer to me. So I'm closer to a hug.
Yes.
In the near future, we'll be in the same room again.
Absolutely. And it's so amazing. It shows how now with the internet, how you can really connect with people. And, when you have these visions, you go out and you find people that have the visions, and then it becomes something great.
Yeah. We were friends before we met face to face. That was pretty powerful, actually.
Yes.
So thank you for being here tonight to talk about the power of self-love. And okay, if I read your bio?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so Christina completed her undergraduate degree at Augusta University and then moved a little bit further south to obtain her master's in clinical mental health counseling from Mercer University. She then worked in the college setting, assisting students with finding their dreams through advising, counseling, and teaching. Then she moved to New Jersey and continued working in the college setting, assisting first-generation youth by providing skills and tools to help those students to successfully complete college, while overcoming many adversities and challenges in the home and in their life. After obtaining her LPC in New Jersey, she worked with families with substance use history. The therapy often involved exploring trauma and experiences in the client's childhood that seeped into their current lives and impacted decision-making. She's trained as a cognitive behavioral therapist, trauma-focused CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and sand play therapy. She utilizes solution-focused therapy and strength-based therapy, my favorite kind, focus on the strengths, to identify goals and start working towards a solution. Mindfulness and motivational interviewing are also used as ways to support her clients. So happy to have you here again.
So when you see it, when you hear it all, it's like, oh, it's been a lot.
Yeah,
it's been a lot of years.
Yeah, and feel proud of it. So pat yourself on the back, all those things.
We all deserve it.
Yes. So can you share a little bit about your journey? Like, were you, 5 years old and knew you wanted to be a therapist? What?
No, I wouldn't say I was 5. I would say I was 5-year-old and the universe decided I was going to be a therapist. Okay. Because it has definitely always been kind of in my personality and in my ingrained in who I am, to always reach out and connect to people and help them and listen, and just to really strengthen them up and to uplift them. And like just really through my own journey, and after losing my mom in high school to cancer, and then having that just really picked up my life and turned it around, and I ended up moving from Virginia to Georgia in this new place, having to make friends while dealing with the loss. And so it was just a lot of different things that was going on. And just really during that time, I really just remember kind of the sadness and the grief and the depression of it all. But of course, you're in school and you're young. So then a lot of it is like putting on this other face and putting on another side of you, that where people aren't really able to see who you are. And that's kind of this wonderful, powerful thing of mental health, and how it kind of relates and connects to our body, is that, inside you could be going crazy. You're feeling the anxiety, you're feeling the depression. It's hard to get out of bed, or it's hard to get motivated to maybe do assignments or do whatever it is you have to do. But on the outside, you can smile and still have a good time. And so and I think that sometimes it can be hard for others to understand it. And so through my own personal journey and through being able to have wonderful, wonderful advisors in school through psychology, it really was something that I was easily drawn to be able to kind of just again, like uplift people and women, especially in that way.
Yeah. I probably personally needed to hear that reminder that sometimes people look like they're fine on the outside and are really struggling on the inside. Yeah. So you went through your own journey to knowing that you were, were naturally interested in talking to people, listening to people, and then, oh, who knew there was a career out there that you can do.
And just really being able to be supported in that, and knowing the power of that support. And really, if you're matched, I always say with therapy, it's a relationship. And so taking your time and researching people and talking to people to make sure that when you can match with someone, but when you're matched with someone and it's a good match, they can change your life. They can change the trajectory of your life. And, you could have been kind of going in this way, and all of a sudden through work and through time, it really does like kind of change your course, and just the power that really can have.
Yeah. So there were positive people in your life, and now you're a positive person in other people's lives. So you're paying it forward. Yeah. So what is your why, if you had to put it into words?
I would really say that is my why. I always like to think of it, for some reason, I kind of imagine it as the Olympics. I don't know why, because I'm not really that athletic, but like in the beginning of the Olympics, how they carry the torch and it's the fire and you just like pass it on. And like sometimes it's like I'm just holding it. And so it's not mine to keep, but I'm just kind of holding space for people. And so I'm just like carrying it, and just maybe they can't do it right now, or maybe they're not seeing the light. And so I'm just like, okay, I'm here. And whenever you're ready for me to hand it over, it's, I'm here to kind of just you can continue that fire in you. And hopefully the changes that you're making, it doesn't just impact you, it impacts your family, your friends, your work. And so you can then shine bright in your life.
Oh, gives me chills. That's beautiful.
I know, it almost made me tear. I was like, that's really good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that. I'm going to go back a little bit to, your bio, because there's some things that jumped out at me. So CBT, I'm just curious if you can explain that a little bit more.
Yeah. So it's short CBT, but it's cognitive behavioral therapy. And just in general, it kind of is like what we think and what we do impacts how we feel. And so it's just kind of understanding that cycle of kind of being able to change your thoughts so that your actions change, so that your feelings change. And to working towards improving it, and not always saying like, okay, if you feel like, I can't do this job, I don't feel like I have the qualifications, I don't feel like that, then your actions may too show it. And so maybe when you're doing your work, you're not confident in it, or you have to speak in a meeting and you're in the back and you're choosing not to say anything. And then you leave the meeting and you're like, oh, I have such great ideas, I really should have said something. And so you're like beating yourself up. I can't believe I can't get up there and do things. And so it's about, again, just kind of changing it and saying like, I don't know I may not know this job, but I can learn it and I can do things. I can maybe find a mentor in it. And just that little thing, if you're taking it from, this is a learning process. So I may stand up and say something and it could be wrong, and that's okay. And that will just change. It will gain where you can gain confidence in that.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. We just had a whole month of guests talking about mindset, and that really plays into growth mindset. So yeah, you can learn from mistakes, and mistakes are fine. Mistakes are good. They're how we learn. So, and I'm familiar with mindfulness because I'm a yoga teacher, but I'm interested in what you use as mindfulness in a therapy setting.
And so a lot of times with mindfulness, especially sometimes people will come, especially in the session, and if their world's chaotic, they'll feel it, because again, it exists inside of you. And so sometimes even during the session or out of it, it can be even like a meditating, utilizing where you can go through your body and tighten certain muscles and then relax it, and just to kind of bring yourself to a present and to center yourself. to being able to center yourself and bring yourself to a present moment, opposing to like thinking about what needs to happen or what needs to happen later or what has happened in the past. Is kind of bringing them, centering them, and just like because you have to be in the moment to do it. You have to, it's taking the deep breaths, going through breathing work, and sometimes, especially outside of therapy, doing like imagery and things like that, where you can, again, just calm your mind and bring yourself to a present space to help to reduce some of the symptoms that you may be feeling.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, so in yoga, I use warrior two. So it's like a lunge and your arms are stretched out in opposite directions, and one arm being the past, one arm being the future. You know, we can't control either, but if you're centered right in the present, focusing on any one of your five senses, you know, what you see, what you feel, what you hear, you know. So I know I always feel better after a yoga session. So I'm glad that you're in your counseling focused kind of, that's really whole person stuff. So, and it gives them people strategies that they can use outside of their session with you.
And a lot of times, because sometimes our feelings can come up in us in times that are less than ideal. And so it gives them time to be able to utilize that, even if they are in the middle of a meeting or about to stand up, or, you know, in just a situation in the middle of a grocery store or driving down the car where it's like, okay, right now I can't go journal, or I can't go lay down for a little bit, or whatever the case may be. But I can take a few minutes and take some deep breaths and go to that place. And like you're saying, utilizing your senses, which is a really good mindfulness technique to bring yourself to a present moment to help to like calm yourself down.
So I'm a little bit more familiar with motivational interviewing. So tell me if I have it right. So in my health coach training, which I did before I did my functional medicine practitioner training, it was almost entirely focused on motivational interviewing, which they pulled from the therapy world, working with clients in addiction. And so the focus was to really listen to the client and find where they're having trouble moving forward because they're in a space of ambivalence, where they want to do something healthy. So from an addiction standpoint, they want to stop drinking, but they enjoy how they are the life of the party when they're drinking. From a health coach standpoint, you know, maybe someone's trying to eat more vegetables or focus on a healthier diet, but they also just really love McDonald's. Like how do they move towards something healthier when they're not real sure they want to do all that it's required to go in that direction? So it's really helping people take baby steps. So I call it a just right challenge, not too hard, not too easy. So help them find what's just right without telling them what's just right.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
Okay.
And I like it too, because it's very client centered and you really are meeting the client where they are at. And so it is just that, like being able to just kind of take the baby steps with them and kind of helping them along the way and helping them through that ambivalence, because sometimes they see it and sometimes they don't. And so it is good to kind of be able to have like a coach in that way, to be able to kind of walk that path.
Right. Okay. So let's jump into the kind of the bulk of the topic of the interview tonight. This conversation it is. So we're in February. This is the month of the heart and love. And last month was mindset, and we're transitioning into, you're like the perfect transition, moving from mindset to heart-centered health and wellness. So I'm wondering if mental health impacts our physical health and vice versa in regard to the physical heart in particular.
And so with mental health, it really is, it is our health. And so in that, a lot of the things, so like your symptoms of going through traumas, having anxiety, having depression, having PTSD and things like that. Those are things where your body can feel it. And so there's endorphins that are being released and things like that, where it really can start to sit in you, and after a prolonged period of time can start to impact your health in ways where it can create increased chances of heart disease or increased chances of high blood pressure and things like that, because you're, again, regardless if you're saying it outwardly or not, your body feels that constant level of stress. And so I always like to describe it as like, imagine you're out and you're walking and a bear comes up and your body starts, you feel that panic, and that's a very real panic, and your heart's racing and you're like, you want to run, or you're trying to figure out, how am I going to escape this situation? When people are dealing with mental health, your body stays in that state. And so just imagine being scared internally, being scared constantly, and never being able to come down off of it. And so the adrenaline that's pumping through your body does start to impact your heart over time.
Yeah. So you were doing a huge service to the world, actually, and everyone that you come in contact with, because stress is a contributing factor, if not the contributing factor, to lots of chronic illness, including those that you mentioned, high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke. So thank you for doing what you do to help people, bring down that stress level, and focus on self-love and wellness. So when we're talking about self-love or self-compassion, what does that mean?
Well, I would say that self-love is just really being able to take a minute for being able to take care of your needs, and not sacrificing your needs for others. And so a lot of people tend to, when I talk to them about self-love or like that self-compassion, they feel like, oh, it's being selfish, or I'm not able to kind of give. I have children, I have a husband or a significant other, I have this job that requires me to stay up till midnight, and just whatever the case of it may be. And it's like, well, it's not that you're saying, well, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to sit today, which some days it actually may be that too. But overall in life, it's not that you're just going to say, I choose to not do life forever and ever, but it's just kind of taking those moments out for you to do something to reduce your stress, so that when you show up in those spaces, you show up as a better person and in a better state, and that you end up being a better parent or a better spouse, or going to work and not feeling the constant stress of having to deal with something that's already stressful.
Yeah. Now you referred to, you said she and having children, and I know you work mainly with women, not exclusively. And I'm wondering, because I would call myself a recovering perfectionist. I had teachers like in elementary school, like say in the parent-teacher conference, she tries to do everything perfectly and she takes forever to do it. So she needs to just let go of the perfection and just get it done. And it took me into adulthood to just be happy with the good enough. And how do you see that playing a role in mental health? And
well, I think perfectionism is something that is just not obtainable. And so it's something that many people try to say, I'm going to do this, but the reality is there is nothing that is perfect. And so it becomes something, and it's like, it's almost like you're constantly beating yourself up, or almost like bullying yourself on a constant basis. And it's kind of happening internally, and it starts to impact your quality of life. It can affect your relationships with others, your work, and things like that. And so it really does start to interfere with your life. And I find that with perfectionism, it's something where then it starts to almost create unhappy, because you're trying to do something that's not obtainable. And so it makes you unhappy that you're not succeeding. And then it can lead to depression or lead to anxiety, which it it ends up being kind of this feedback loop through it, where it's like, oh, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. And eventually it can wear you down.
Yeah. Now, if you were like employing CBT techniques in that scenario, like how do you stop thinking the repetitive negative thoughts?
Well, I bring it back to I find that perfectionism, it can lend itself to when people stay in two different spaces. And so if they're living in the past or if they're living in the present. And so it's kind of this fear of unknown or fear of like, oh, I can't believe I did that. And so what I try to do is kind of bring thinking back to a more present time, because unfortunately, we can't change the past, and we also can't leap into the future. And so I always say, it's like, well, what can we do right now so that our future self can kind of appreciate these actions? Because it's a lot of these actions that will become your tomorrow and the next day. And so just kind of bring it back to that. So you don't have control over those two things. And so let's kind of dissect it a little bit, and let's just kind of take it into manageable chunks and say like, okay, what do I have control over, and how can I work towards doing that? And again, so it's just starting to change our thinking that it doesn't have to be there. That again, it's not something that has to be perfect. It can just be like, well, what do I have control over? What can I do? What do I have an ability to be able to do? Doing that action, and then just being able to say like, okay, I've done all that I can do, and knowing that. And so with that, I also always encourage people to just also understand that your work ethics, and let that kind of be your bar, and utilize that as evidence that the work that you're going to produce is going to be great work, because you know that you put in 110%. So you don't have to kind of use that as, you don't have to worry about that piece, because that's just something that's a natural part of you.
Yeah. So that's for the perfectionist. Yeah.
Yes.
And good enough. It's good enough. I have learned done is better than perfect. I actually have it on a sticky note over there. Done is better than perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and done is like, that is it. That is what kind of this idea of perfect is. It's just really doing it, and it's living life in the moment. And you can't live it if you're living in that state of kind of being, is good enough, or just, again, what is the future going to look, or how can I kind of change it, and just kind of, because then you won't be able to enjoy it. You won't enjoy the work that you're doing. You won't be able to enjoy parenting. You won't be able to enjoy your relationships, because you're like, I have to do it right. And by doing that, it takes away from your experiences, and it takes away from you living.
Yeah. So this group is focused on brain wellness and dementia prevention. And really mindset and how you talk to yourself is huge when you're on any health journey. And so do you have like some suggestions for self-love, daily action steps that you can do to give yourself some love and attention?
Well, I always like to start in just by saying, like, being able to say I am enough. And I am always an advocate of my clients. I say, you talk outside, you talk aloud to yourself. You're not crazy. Look in the mirror, say it out loud, because you need to hear it, and to be able to believe it. So it's not just about thinking it. It's say I am enough, and being able to say I'm enough, I'm doing enough, and I am right where I need to be. And just being able to have some type of affirmation that works for you. And so I do encourage, like you're saying, done is better than perfect. And so having whatever that looks like for you, and that affirmation to be able to show that, I'm enough in this moment.
Yeah, I like that you added that, choose the affirmation that works for you. Because sometimes you'll get like a list of affirmations, pick something, and you look at all of them, you're like, oh, I can't say any of those. None of them feel authentic or honest. And so it is important that it feels right. I like, it's so simple, but I am enough. Like, I've never said that to myself in the mirror. I'm going to do that. I am enough.
And it does, and I think too, and again, it releases the same, because then you'll start to feel it. You're like, again, it starts to commit to feel the positive piece of that. Some other things as well is to know that, the decision that you're making today is based on the life that you're living today. And so again, a lot of times we like to go back and beat ourselves up because we're like, oh, I should have known that was going to happen, or I should have been able to see that. But that wasn't evident in the time that you made your decision. And so just being okay that, I'm making my decision with the information that I have today. And tomorrow you may have different information and you can make a different decision, because it's tomorrow, it's a new day, and it gives you a new opportunity to be able to, live in your truth in each moment.
Yeah. I mean, that's practicing self-love, like giving yourself a break. You did the best you could at that time. I interviewed a couple weeks ago my lacrosse coach, and one of the things that she said about mindset the focus was on resilience. But she said, she teaches her girls, be your own best friend. Would you say the things to your best friend that you say to yourself in your mind? Be your own best friend. That's like practicing self-love. I am enough. I did what I could at the time with the information that I had. Yeah.
Another big one, create boundaries. That is its own topic. Creating boundaries, because I think it can definitely be hard to create boundaries, and especially I would say it's even harder with the ones that we love, and then I think work is like a close second. But creating boundaries with your family, with your kids, with your significant other, with your job, with anything around you, like being able to have solid boundaries, because I find that a lot of times what ends up happening kind of in that we pour everything into everyone else, into what they're doing, and we're filling their cups, and then it just leaves ours kind of in this depleted state. And so sometimes it's okay to say no, like, no, I can't do that, or I don't have the time to do that, or even just taking a moment, even if it is with your kids, and saying like, mommy needs a 10-minute timeout, or a 10-minute. And again, it's not only for you, but it's now you're being able to show the next generation that, in those moments that you need to reset, you go and you reset, and that is okay. And creating healthy boundaries around your life, around who you invite into your life, and the kind of the energy that you allow to be around you.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, excuse me, a lot of self-love stuff. And you said boundaries could be a whole bunch of sessions, a whole long conversation here that we don't have time for, but those are some good little examples. How do you know if your boundaries are not what they need to be?
I feel like a lot of times people come back and report that their bodies honestly tell them, as I'm teaching them how to recognize that, what your boundaries are, they start to tell me that the feeling existed. And so it's kind of maybe this discomfort that it involves inside you, or even you actively knowing like, I don't have time to do this. Like, I really can't, or I can't do this, or I don't want to be in this space. I don't like this person. Every time I'm around them, it's a bad, it ends up in a bad situation, or just whatever the case may be. And so there's usually things either in our external environment, internally based on our history that has happened, or just kind of this gut feeling where you're like, that it doesn't sit well with me, or doesn't sit right. And again, and I think it also can too come back when sometimes you may kind of give resentment back, because I find that too, when people allow others to cross their boundaries, then they end up like resenting them, and kind of putting the energy back onto them when it's the boundary that wasn't created or that was allowed to be crossed, that is leaving that feeling of the resentment.
Right. No, I was looking through your website recently, so christinaskyers.com.
Yes.
And you're good with visuals. Like I liked the passing of the torch and holding the Olympic torch, passing the light. And you have another one about the seed. And that's another good visual. Can you share that watering the seed, nourishing the seed.
Yes, and so in that, in short, it really just becomes something is like I say that no matter what you're doing in life, you plant these seeds, and so whatever it is that you're kind of putting out in the world, regardless if it's positive energy or negative, you have to plant the seed and you have to water it. So you can choose if it's going to be a positive experience, or if you're just going to see only the negative parts of it. And then I find too that once people get into a negative loop, it can just kind of spiral their whole day. And so, like for instance, with this weather that's going on, maybe getting your car getting stuck on some snow or things like that. And it's like just one little thing. And that's just that's the event that was planted. And so you can say like, okay, what are my options? You can call for help. You can try to get it out yourself. Maybe someone will come and help you. And then you can continue on with your day. Or you can water another side of it and say, this is always happening to me. I can never get anywhere on time. Then you finally get out, but maybe you make every red light. And so then you're just adding, see, it's just the universe is against me. I am trying to get to work and it's taking me, instead of 20 minutes, it's going to take me 45 minutes. And then, so it's like, you start to see the negative in things. And so instead of just saying, okay, well, I am a few minutes late, it took me some time to get to work, so be it. It's like, what did we water? What energy did we kind of bring? And then as you start to like look at life and look at the things around you, that will be the lens that you see it from. So if you're going to choose to say, okay, this is going to be, not per se positive, because not everything is positive, but I'm not going to let it be something that keeps me stuck here. Or is it going to be something where you'll be stuck and no matter what is around, that's what you're going to choose to kind of see it from.
That's really good. I like that. I like that. I wish sometimes I wish you weren't my friend so that you could be my therapist. But oh well. Oh well, we can't cross that boundary.
Yes.
So you are still licensed in New Jersey.
Yes.
Also now licensed in Virginia.
Yes.
You moved. You had a big 2021. You bought a new house. What does 2022 hold for you? I mean, you're in the present moment, but what are your goals that you're considering?
So in the future, I'm close to the DMV area. So I'm definitely wanting to add Maryland and DC to my licensure so that I can also practice in those states as well. And then as time goes on, maybe moving on to more coaching and things like that, because I find that in that model, it creates more opportunities to reach a wider band of people. And so to be able to not have the limits of each state when a licensure for mental health, but still be able to, especially for someone that it may not be so much be mental health, but just kind of getting some motivation to see like, what is this next step? And I just needing someone to, get in the car with you, not be the driver, just be a passenger in the car with you so that you can, I always like to say I'm just kind of navigating. So I may just have the map and I'm like, oh, well, maybe we can try this path. And just to kind of be along in that process with you.
Yeah, that's another great visual. I love that. Yeah. So that there's a difference between coaching and counseling. I guess the coaching, I'm a coach, not a counselor. And it's a little bit more of a partnership, right? There's, so I hope that coaching comes into your life so that more people can benefit from you, not just New Jersey and Maryland, or New Jersey and Virginia, maybe Maryland and DC too. But I'm excited for you to expand. And
I know, I think at the end of the day, like I said, I really do enjoy working with women and just being able to see in them sometimes the light that they don't see in themselves. And sometimes it's so hard because I talk to them and I'm like, oh my goodness, your light is just shining so bright. And it's just because of maybe things that they've gone through or their situations and stuff like that, that makes it hard for them to acknowledge that in themselves. And so it's such a fulfilling feeling to see that when they're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that this has been there. And just to kind of be able to take some of the layers off, and to be able to just, find happiness again, and find kind of purposes for living, and to know that, this is a life worth living, and that I want to continue and do things that feel good to me, and live a long life with that, having those skills. And I always like to say, especially with mental health, because of course there's still a taboo surrounding it, that people feel like you have to be on an extreme end to really need to be able to seek services. But it's when it's little things, like you don't have to go through every situation by yourself, and that it's nice to have someone that's not in your family or not so closely connected to you to just kind of be there. And it doesn't, maybe sometimes it's just a few months, it may be 3 months for you, and you're like, okay, now I have some tools, I've been able to kind of process some things that happen, and I'm okay. While for other people, it may be a year or multiple years. And so everyone's journey looks very different, but just, kind of taking that time to say, like, I'm choosing me. And in choosing me, I'm choosing to be healthy, and be healthy in all aspects. And, mental health is the bigger one. And like I said, it's something that you can't see and can't feel. And so it is something to be able to consider and be proud that you're working towards that.
Yeah, I like that reminder. You're there for people if they need you in crisis, but it's great to take care of things before there's a crisis, and to give yourself a little self-love, self-compassion, and find someone like you to be that navigator. Yeah. So how do people find you if they're not your friend and they're allowed to be your patient?
So, of course, going to my website, which is christinaskyers.com. And then I am on Instagram at Christina Skyers Counseling.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your bright light with the audience tonight, and for being here with me. I appreciate you and your time. Any other self-love things that we need to talk about before we wrap up the evening? And did we do a good job of covering it all?
No, I just say, again, just do something that makes you feel good. And when it makes you feel good, it's helping your heart and helping things like that. And so whatever that may be, and for everyone, it does look different. So, choose to love yourself. And in this week, over the next few weeks and months, just find one day, an hour, 5 minutes, whatever you have. No time is too small to take time for yourself.
I love that. Well said. Thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you.
Say good night.
Thank you. Good night.